Live from Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. President Tinubu appoints Tunji Disu as acting Inspector General of Police following Kayode Egbetokun's resignation. Gunmen attack former presidential candidate Peter Obi and other chieftains of ADC in Edo State. And Ukraine marks 4 years since Russia launched full-scale invasion on Kyiv in February 2022.
CBN cuts benchmark interest rates to 26.5% at its Monetary Policy Committee meeting.
And in sports, 11 years on from their fight of the century, boxing icons Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao agreed to a rematch on the 19th of September live on Netflix. Details later.
Tonight begins now. Thank you for joining us. Nigeria's policing leadership has taken a dramatic turn as Kayode Egbetokun has been relieved of his duties as Inspector General of Police IGP. His removal comes 2 years after his appointment. Egbetokun is expected to be replaced by Tunji Disu, the outgoing head of the Federal Criminal Investigations and Intelligence Department in Lagos.
Egbetokun was appointed IGP on June 19, 2023, becoming Nigeria's 22nd Inspector General of Police.
I feel like a tiger inside of me, ready to chase away all the criminals in Nigeria.
He joined the Nigerian police force in 1994 and rose through the ranks, serving in operations, administration and intelligence. Before becoming IGP, he served as Deputy Inspector General in charge of Force Criminal Investigation Department. His appointment by President Bola Tinubu followed the retirement of Usman Alkali Baba and immediately sparked debate, with critics describing him as a close ally of the president from their time in Lagos. During his tenure, Egbetokun launched initiatives such as the Special Intervention Squad to combat violent crime and ordered nationwide crackdowns on kidnapping and armed robbery. However, his time in office was overshadowed by controversy. He faced condemnation from civil society groups over allegations of police brutality and excessive force.
I wasn't carried away with such insinuations.
His handling of protest policing, including renewed NSAS-related demonstrations and cost-of-living protests, drew criticism from human rights advocates who accused the police of suppressing dissent.
We are drawing the attention of the public since that some bad elements are trying to hijack this protest.
NSAS is not minimal force. When people have to run because their eyes are watering, their throats are hurting.
Opposition figures also faulted him for what they described as a failure to decisively curb banditry and mass kidnappings in part of northern Nigeria.
I don't know.
Additionally, questions were raised about the amendment of the Police Act that allowed him to remain in office beyond the statutory requirement age, a move critics argued was tailored to extend his tenure, while the presidency insisted his continued stay was legal under the amended law. Controversy persisted.
So, Egbetokun must go!
Sources now say Egbetokun was asked to resign following a meeting with President Tinubu at the presidential villa, though no official statement has yet detailed the reasons for his removal. Speculation is growing about the internal factors that led to his resignation. Expected to step into Egbetokun's shoes is Tunji Disu, a seasoned investigator who has led the Federal Criminal Investigations and Intelligence Department FCIID in Lagos.
The Inspector General of Police is a sportsman and he has always emphasized fitness.
Disu previously headed the Rapid Response Squad and served in the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. He is known for leading high-profile investigations and dismantling organized criminal networks. He also served as the Commissioner of Police for Rivers State and the Federal Capital Territory. With mounting insecurity and public distrust in the police, the new police IG will face the challenge of restoring confidence in the force and addressing Nigeria's complex security threats. News Central will continue to monitor developments and bring you updates as they unfold. In Lagos for News Central, Igbalani Omoni.
Many thanks, Nii, for this conversation. We have Omoyele Sowore. He is a rights activist and former presidential candidate of the African Action Congress. He has been very vocal about the tenure of the now resigned police boss. He joins me for this development. Thank you very much for giving us your time. Considering your history with this gentleman, Kayode Egbetokun, and his tenure, you have repeatedly asked that he leave. How did you receive the news of his resignation? Would you say it points to finally accountability happening, or just a political move?
Well, I did not receive the news of his resignation. I received the news of his final retirement. He was actually asked to leave eventually because it became clear that his tenure was illegal, his appointment was illegal, and they couldn't just scrape through this because they've been trying to bamboozle the public that they made a law that extended his tenure for 4 years. But don't forget that his tenure started after he had retired. So that was a mistake they made, and I think they're trying to correct it. But apart from that, he's been a complete failure as Inspector General of Police. While he held that position illegally, this country has been bombarded by a crisis of kidnapping, terrorism, and the banditry beyond what has ever seen before. And he was just an embarrassment to policing, I would say. And he should have left a long time. He shouldn't have been appointed in the first place as Inspector General of Police, but you know what it is. So I probably was the first to break the news publicly today because I heard from the authorities involved that he's been asked to leave. And I broke the news. In fact, I was in court facing one of the cases he sustained against me, a cybercrime case, because this guy filed about 5 cybercrime cases against me last year. And he sustained one that was filed since 2021 because I asked him to do what is right, which is to leave and let the Nigerian police breathe. But okay, you guys are aware of also a recent lawsuit he filed against me where he got an order from a court in Jabi area of Abuja asking me not to mention that he's illegal police IG.
Yeah, yes, I was actually going to come...
mention that his son got money from Anambra State Security fund, 100 million. They now claim is accidentally sent to his account. But I think there were a lot of scandals that just couldn't go away.
All right, because we're time constrained with the news. I'm sorry to interject, but I was going to come and ask you about the case with the now ex-IGP. The court, the Federal High Court and the High Court of the FCT had issued an interim injunction restraining you and Sahara reporters. Now that he's no longer in the picture, would you continue to, take him on issues around his time, or now that he's out of the picture, you focus on who is coming in?
No, if there are things associated with his tenure that are illegal or criminal, we don't take our eyes off that. He's the one who dragged me to court. I would love to get to the bottom of how his son got 100 million naira from Anambra State and make sure that the money is truly returned back to Anambra State. And if there are other things he did while he was illegally in office, we have to reverse them, like all those promotions he did, giving people promotion that they didn't deserve. I mean, I know policemen who have been in the police force since 2004, they are still CSPs. And there are guys like the spokesperson, what's it called, Ben Hundenyi, who, and I think he got into the police in 2014, is already ACP. He's senior to people who had joined the police 10 years. That's unfair kind of promotion, but they just destroy the police. We also have issues about how he ethnicized the police force. We have to look into all this, and as part of our struggle to make sure that we have better policing and a better country, no doubt.
What's your thoughts about his replacement, Tunji Disu? Are you satisfied? Will there be changes, or you're going to take it one day at a time with his?
I'll take it one day at a time. I'm not in the Police Service Commission. I'm not involved in appointing policemen into positions, but I'm involved as a citizen who has a voice to say what is right, and if I do something wrong, of course, I'll take Tunji on as well. What we have given him a lot of people have been saying that he's a nice guy, but nobody's nice when they get into power in Nigeria. But one of the things I don't want to hear that he continues with is arresting people for cybercrime offenses, transporting them across on behalf of powerful people. We want them to discontinue all those cybercrime cases, reverse, the illegal promotion of persons in the police force that don't deserve it, and to clean up the police force within the time allotted to him. I'm aware that his position at this point is still acting. So we take it from there.
You were recently awarded 30 million in damages. Now that there's a change.
I was going to ask that that's part of his first duty, call of duty, to pay my 30 million naira with immediate effect so that I can move on. And,
but I think I saw, I could be wrong, but I think the Force Public Relations Officer said the matter is being reviewed. And then I saw another report that says the police is probably going to appeal the damages. So what would be your move if that's the case?
They can appeal the damages. The judgment is very explicit. They have to pay up, They cannot use appeal as a basis for writing. I mean, it was a wrong move on their part to declare me wanted. When I haven't committed an offense, you need to see the judgment. It was very sound and explicit, and we should. I thought they said they're counting the money. Not appeal will not solve the problem, and they should know me better. I'll get my money because it's money that assigned to me, and I'm going to donate it to charity. By the way, I donate it to all these people. They're breaking down their houses and student activists that have been, subjected to all kinds of. I have some of them in Ibadan. And some of our colleagues and movement members who are fighting to make the country a better place. That's where the money is going to, so they better pay.
All right. I'll just ask you this in 40 seconds, if you can. From your experience, I mean, you've had issues with the former IGP. Do you believe the issues within the police are rooted in individual leadership failures or more of a systemic problem that goes beyond changing an IGP?
No, it's systemic, but it is people that are going to fix the system. I believe that. If you have competent people, they will fix the police force. There's no question about it. The police has been rotting over the years, but if you have great leaders who know what to do, the right thing to do, you can fix the police. It's the easiest thing to do. You just need to know what is there to do and what is there not to do, and go and do what is right courageously. And you find that you have a different police in the country, and it will be better for everybody, because right now the police is missing in action. That's why you have military men even controlling traffic on the streets, and they have no business doing that. So I'm not the only one who has said it. I think I heard from a retired Army General that if the police was properly in place, so many of these issues we're having with terrorism, kidnapping, and banditry would not be so pronounced and so retracted. I mean, so terrible right now as we have it.
Thank you very much for obliging us tonight. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Also standing by for this conversation is our former Lagos State Police Commissioner, Fatai Oseni. Thank you very much for your patience and for joining us tonight. A new tenor arriving after all the issues that we've had with the IGP, the former IGP. Do you think this will herald a change in the security architecture in this country, or is just a change of button without any impact?
Thank you very much, and good evening, viewers. I think the appointment has been made. We've always, like we've always said, each Inspector General of Police has his job already cut out for him. The situation we find ourselves in the country now, we require that the new Inspector General of Police, hits the ground running. And of course, he was there at Air Force headquarters as the principal staff officer to the IG. And he also had the opportunity of, being commissioner of police in two different state commands, as well as the position of Assistant Inspector General of Police. I think he knows that his job is cut out for him, and he hit the ground running to ensure that the police is able to take his primacy when it comes to internal security operation.
Your brisk assessment of Egbetoku's time, and what are the few things you would like to see different with Tunji Disu, whether he's confirmed or not?
You see, there are two different processes. Approaches would be different. The only thing is, you see, for police duties and police operations, there are extant rules and regulations. And if they work within the ambit of extant rules and regulations, and with the wherewithal provided for them, the new Inspector General of Police should be able to position to the police rightly. As to the outgoing IG, I want to congratulate him. Yes, he had his own beat, and of course, he's done his best. Whatever gaps is gone is gone. So whatever gaps that has been left, the new Inspector General of Police and his management team should be able to do, an institutional memory, look at the gaps and see how they can fix the gaps, especially with regards to proper funding of the institution. Because if an institution is labeled as the lead agency in internal security operations, and it remains the least funded, so these are areas they have to look at. They have to look at the issue of motivation of the boots on the ground as well, and see how they can fix all this.
I agree with you. The motivation part is very, very important, especially we continuing to see officers asking for changes on the road. Quickly, in 40 seconds, there's been a lot of talk about he's been sacked, he's been asked to step down, he resigned. From your assessment, does it really matter that how he left?
It doesn't matter at all. He served as the IG, and when the president, in his wisdom, think that there should be a change, that the president and commander-in-chief and the chairman of the police council made a change, and the president has also, requested for a meeting of the police council to look at that appointment tomorrow. So whichever way, the fact is that he served his tenure and he did his best.
Thank you very much, sir, for speaking with us.
Thank you.
Tonight returns after this break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. President Tinubu appoints Tunji Disu as Acting Inspector General of Police following Kayode Egbetoku's resignation. Gunmen attack former presidential candidate Peter Obi and other chieftains of ADC in Edo State. And Ukraine marks 4 years since Russia launched full-scale invasion on Kyiv in February 2022. Now, a tense and chaotic scene unfolded in Benin City today as gunmen opened fire during a political event involving former presidential candidate Peter Obi and other leaders of the African Democratic Congress. Eyewitnesses say shots rang out shortly after party supporters gathered for a formal declaration event, prompting panic and a rush for cover in parts of Edo State's capital. News Center's Ameze Bazwai reports that as a high-profile political gathering quickly turned violent when armed individuals reportedly trailed the convoy of ADC leaders from the Secretariat to the residence of former APC National Chairman Chief John Odigie Oyegun.
And I assure you, this cannot be true at all. We have a country. Yes, and we are part of the country. Exactly. We cannot have terrorism terrorizing the country and have officials in government terrorizing citizens. It's not acceptable.
Meanwhile, security has heightened in parts of Benin City following the shooting incident that disrupted the ADC event earlier on Tuesday. News Central reports that police operatives have now been deployed to strategic locations connected to the incident as investigations continue. Armed police officers were sighted at the ADC Secretariat, as well as the residence of former APC National Chairman Chief John Odigie Oyegun. The Edo State Police Command has reassured residents that the situation remains under control and that efforts are ongoing to identify and apprehend those responsible for the disruption. The National Assembly has postponed the resumption of plenary from February 24th to March the 5th to allow lawmakers conclude ongoing budget defense sessions. Both the Senate and the House of Representatives had earlier adjourned plenary for 2 weeks to enable committees carry out the 2026 budget defense sessions with ministries, departments and agencies, as well as government parastatals. In a notice issued by the clerk to the National Assembly, Kamoru Ogunlona, the postponement is intended to give committee more time to complete the review of budget proposals before plenary resumes. Nigeria's benchmark interest rates have been cut for the first time in months as the Central Bank of Nigeria lowered the monetary policy rate from 27% to 26.5%, announcing the decision after the 304th Monetary Policy Committee meeting in Abuja. Governor Olayemi Kadoso said the 50 basis point reduction reflects easing inflation and improving macroeconomic conditions. Other policy parameters remain unchanged, maintaining tight liquidity while supporting economic recovery and investor confidence.
The committee decided as follows. 1, reduce the monetary policy rate by 50 basis points to 26.5%. 2, retain the standing facilities corridor around the MPR at plus 50 to minus 450 basis points. 3, retain the cash reserve requirement, CRR, for deposit money banks at 45%, merchant banks at 16%, and 75% for non-TSA public sector deposits.
Financial expert Mokhtar Mohammed joins me now for this conversation. Thank you very much for being here. Talk to us in layman terms, the implication of this interest rate cut by the CBN.
Thank you for having me. Good evening. And the implication is that cost of borrowing will go down by 50 basic points. To a layman, if you are borrowing money from the bank, what it says is that you are going to borrow at a lower interest rate. That's just it. For a layman, I think that was the only parameter that changes. And again, it was a no-brainer. We expected it to happen because if you look at the economy, what they've said have happened, inflation has come down, exchange rate has stabilized and even still going lower. So definitely there was no reason for the CBN to pull rate or tight rate. Definitely they have to cut rate. So that was the only change that we saw there. Every other parameter remains the same. Liquidity, bank liquidity with the CBN remains the same. Every parameter, but they just needed to change the cost of borrowing. Even if a lot of people expected them to do like 100 basic points, but they just did only 50, which I think is good for a start. Maybe in going forward, we begin to look at how we can drastically reduce it when we have to deal with some headwinds, which are still there, especially in the political year.
Is the easing of inflation and improving macroeconomic condition, is this something you agree with?
Of course, like I said, it's a no-brainer. I mean, if you have said that inflation has come down, you say that you're destabilized. So definitely the next thing you need to do is to bring down interest rate, because it doesn't make sense for you to say all those things and then you are still hiking rates. So you have to loosen up a little. And I think they're doing they're losing up a little, but if a lot of people expected them to do it, to make a very big losing. But again, they are not doing that. And like I said, you look at the headwinds are still there. You have liquidity in the system. Some are outside the banking sector. And again, don't forget that the banks are also doing recapitalization that is bringing up a lot of liquidity into the system. So all these are reasons where they looked at and said, look, we need also to just cut it by 50 basis points, and then we'll see how it plans out.
Okay, they say other policy parameters remain unchanged. Can you explain that to us a bit?
Yes, other policy parameters remain unchanged. What they are saying is that the rates remain unchanged in terms of liquidity with the CBN, in terms of TSA special account, everything remains the same. So it's bank liquidity with the CBN. Every other parameter remains the same. So it just means that we have not really checked anything. We still believe in what we are doing. We have to leave it at where it is. And so when we're talking about that, you're talking about interest rate, bank overnight charges with the CBN, bank fund with the CBN, we still remain the same. So that's basically what they are saying. But the main take of any MPC meeting is the MPR, which has come down.
The Monetary Policy Committee has voted to reduce Nigeria's benchmark interest rate. We understand this is a monetary policy rate from 27. This happened late in May last year.
No. It happened late last year. What the CBN did was to hold rates. They didn't bring it down. They did it in May. I think they just did a 25 basis point reduction in last year. Then people were expecting them to carry over with another cut, which they didn't do. They just did a whole. And so this year, this is the first Monetary Policy Committee meeting of the year, and they have decided to cut the rate. So yes, last year was about 25 basis points, but now they are doing 50 basis points, which is a departure from before when we have that hike, and hold.
Very much, Makta, for speaking with us. A short break, the news continues right after. Glad you're still with us. Governor of Imo State and chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, Hope Uzodinma, has called for stronger grassroots mobilization and unified communication of government reforms. This was at the Progressive Governors Forum Renewed Hope Ambassadors Strategy Summit held at the State House Conference in Abuja. Representing the President, Vice President Kashim Shettima says that recent reforms have stabilized the economy and restored investor confidence, stressing that public understanding is vital for national progress.
In such a season, clarity becomes national security. Citizens today are more informed, but not always more accurately informed. Social media amplifies speed, but not necessarily context. Reform by its context and nature creates discomfort before it creates stability. The central democratic challenge before us is this: how do we ensure that the structural reform being undertaken by our government is understood, defended, internalized, and translated into citizens' trust at the grassroots? Because policy success without citizen understanding creates perception gaps, and perception gaps weaken democratic legitimacy. That is why we are here.
From the start, our administration chose the path of honesty and discipline. We confronted deep-seated structural distortions. In so doing, we have restored fiscal credibility, stabilized the economy, and set the foundation for long-term economic growth. Today, we are seeing clear signs that our reforms have begun to yield results. Inflationary pressures are moderating, fuel prices are easing, our currency is strong.
The Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria has re-echoed its call to President Bola Tinubu to review the recently passed executive order on the oil and gas sector, saying that it is an attack on the Petroleum Industry Act. The association, during its National Executive Council meeting in Abuja, says that provisions of the order, particularly directing the NNPC Limited to remit 30% of oil profits from production sharing contracts directly to the Federation account, can destabilize operations within the company and will affect the welfare of its members.
From our own assessment, that the provisions of this order is a direct attack on the PIA. That the government today, both the legislature and the executive, they all belong to the same party. If you want to amend laws, send those laws to the National Assembly. Let all stakeholders look at it. Let all stakeholders debate it. And at the end, the law could be amended. But the way we went about this executive order, we are scared that it has the ability to impact on the stability we currently enjoy in the oil and gas industry. And we have asked government to have a rethink about this.
Away from Nigeria, Ukraine and its allies marked 4 years since Russia launched its full-scale invasion on February 24, 2022, with ceremonies in Kyiv. President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia had failed to achieve its goals, asserting that Ukrainians remain unbroken and that Kyiv will pursue peace and justice. European leaders, including French President Emmanuel Macron and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, reaffirmed support for Ukraine's defense and stressed the need to counter narratives that Moscow is prevailing. Macron describes the war as a strategic setback for Russia, while Starmer said sustained support is essential to secure a lasting resolution. Tonight returns with business, sports and entertainment news. To stay with us.
In business, Nigeria's state oil company, Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, will begin exporting a new light sweet crude grade, Cotton, in March as Africa's top producer seeks stronger output and revenue. The launch supports Nigeria's recovery after losses linked to theft and disruptions. With API gravity of 36.4, the grade is comparable to Bonny Light and expected to deliver gasoline and diesel yields. Analysts at Kepler say exports will be handled via the Cotton storage vessel linked to oil mining lease 18 assets. Output could rise to 1.7 million barrels per day, close to Nigeria's OPEC quota, as production improves through 2026 and export grows. We also tell you that Ivory Coast may face a surge of about 200,000 metric tons of unsold cocoa by the end of March as main crop stocks pile up due to state-set farmer prices above global levels, industry sources say. The backlog has pressured world prices, which have dropped 50% this year to near 3-year lows, while mid-crop sales of 200,000 tons were agreed with international traders. Many main crop beans remain unsold. The government has pledged $500 million to buy 100,000 tons of unsold cocoa to pay farmers, but traders warn further price adjustments are needed to clear remaining stocks ahead of harvest. And looking at the equities markets, it pulled back as the all-share index declined 0.92% to close at 194,484 points. Of course, trimming market capitalization to 124.82 trillion naira. Of course, that's capitalization and 0.92% in terms of differentials, where we see that the drop wasn't broad-based panic, but then a sharp drag from one key pocket of the market. So this item, we look at sectoral performance and tell you that the banking sector still advanced 1.23% with a steady interest in names like Zenith Bank. Now, insurance slipped to 1.31%, actually a growth rate there reflecting cautious repositioning after its recent surge. Oil and gas edge of 0.15% as traders stayed selective. Consumer goods plunged 4.74% as heavy selling pressure in major counters such as Nestle, Nigeria, and Cadbury significantly dampened sentiment, overwhelming gains elsewhere. Now, industrial goods rose 1.92% with Dangote Cement providing solid support, but it wasn't enough to counterbalance the consumer-led slump. But that's it on business. I am Likon Obanjo.
Hello and welcome to sports. Team Akwa Ibom struck gold at the ongoing Niger Delta Games in Benin City today in boxing as Jedediah Bassi dominated the 65-kilogram category and Naomi Alexander powered to victory in the 60-kilogram division, underlining the state's rising pedigree. Host Team Edo, however, maintained a firm grip on the medals table, amassing 22 gold, 12 silver and 13 bronze medals. Delta State sits second with 14 gold, 19 silver and 11 bronze medals, while Bayelsa occupies third place with 13 gold, 7 silver, and 11 bronze medals. To basketball now, the Nigerian Basketball Federation has announced a 17-player preliminary roster for the reigning women's AfroBasket champions, the Tigress, ahead of the 2026 FIBA Women's World Cup qualifiers. 11 members of the 2025 AfroBasket winning squad were called up to be led by coach Rena Wakama. The qualifiers will take place from the 11th to the 18th of March 2026 across 4 centers across the world. Nigeria has been placed in the Lyon-Villeurbanne group alongside host France, Germany, Colombia, South Korea, and the Philippines. Nigeria heads into the qualifiers as one of the 4 continental champions alongside Australia, Belgium, and the USA. The Tigers begin their quest for one of the 3 tickets in the group with their opening game against Colombia on the 11th of March, followed by consecutive matches against South Korea, Philippines, France, and Germany in that order. Meanwhile, here in Africa, Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko has criticized the Moroccan court's decision to sentence 18 Senegalese football supporters to prison following a pitch invasion during an international fixture last month. The fans were arrested in Morocco at the Africa Cup of Nations final on the 18th of January. Authorities accused them of engaging in violence against security personnel and causing property damage inside the stadium. The ruling has sparked concern in Senegal, with Prime Minister Sonko expressing disapproval over the severity of the punishment handed down to the supporters. The case has drawn attention to fan conduct at major tournaments and the diplomatic sensitivities that can arise when incidents involve foreign nationals at high-profile continental events.
Mbir mi dafa melni dafa weesu mbirum sport ndax mbir dañ koy wax ñu koy ñaawlu di ko naqarlu ndax diggante ñaari réew yi bu dee liñ ci wax moo ci am waroon na demee neneen ndax sport ak passion ñoo ànd mbir mi ni mu doxee rafetut ci diggante ñaari réew yu.
And finally, boxing legends Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao will renew their rivalry in a professional rematch on September the 19th in Las Vegas, with streaming platform Netflix confirming the blockbuster showdown. The bout relieves a feud that defined an era of modern boxing. Their first meeting in May 2015, famously billed as Fight of the Century, generated record-breaking revenue and global attention, ending with Mayweather preserving his unbeaten record. Although the spectacle outweighed the action for many fans, its cultural and commercial impact was undeniable. Mayweather retired in 2017 with a flawless 50 wins and no losses record, while Pacquiao has 62 wins, 8 losses and 3 draws, and he returned last July, fighting Mario Barrios to a draw. The 2 icons will now prepare to add a fresh chapter to their storied legacies. And that's all on sports tonight. Up next is entertainment with Sam Daddy.
And now in entertainment, Nigeria's anti-trafficking agency, the National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, says it is ready to investigate allegations linked to singer Simi's mother's daycare. Now, this, of course, is only if credible evidence or formal complaints are submitted. The update follows renewed backlash after Simi's 2012 tweets about assisting at this daycare surfaced online. Some social media users interpreted the post as inappropriate. Simi has denied any wrongdoing, explaining she was 23 at the time, living with her mother and helping with childcare while building her music career. She insists the comments were innocent and taken out of context. We're watching as that one pans out. But out of Africa, global pop icon Taylor Swift has earned her 14th #1 single on the Billboard Hot 100 as Opalite climbed to the charts top. The achievement ties her with Rihanna for the most Hot 100 #1 hits this century and the 3rd most chart toppers ever. Opalite is one of 2 chart-topping singles from Swift's latest album, The Life of a Showgirl, and this new feat ranks Swift among the top artists in the chart's history, trailing only all-time leaders such as the Beatles and Mariah Carey. A big congrats to Taylor Swift on that one. Now, those are the biggest stories in entertainment. I am Sam Dandy.
That's all we have for you tonight. But before we go, a quick recap of our top stories. President Tinubu has appointed Tunji Disu as Acting Inspector General of Police following Kayode Egbetokun's resignation. Former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi and other chieftains of ADC escaped gunmen attack in Edo State. We also brought you news that Ukraine has marked 4 years since Russia launched full-scale invasion on Kyiv in February of 2022. As always, we'll appreciate your feedback and eyewitness reports. Please share them using the number showing now on your screen. We're on social media at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Thank you for your kind company. Have a good night.